Hello, I'm Peter Miller. I'm so glad you could join me for tonight's journey. Let me ask you something. Right now, as you settle into your bed, what time is it? You probably know down to the minute. Your phone tells you. Your clock glows in the darkness, and somewhere in your mind you're already calculating how many hours until morning. Will you get enough sleep? Will you wake too early? Will you lie awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, wondering why rest won't come? Now let me take you somewhere else. Somewhere without that glowing clock, without that anxious arithmetic of hours, without the concept of bedtime at all. Picture this: a winter night on the Great Plains, perhaps 300 years ago, maybe more. The wind is not howling dramatically. It's moving steadily, persistently, like the breath of the earth itself. The temperature has dropped to 20 below zero, 30 below in the hours before dawn. Cold enough that your breath would freeze into crystals before reaching the ground. Cold enough that exposed skin dies in minutes. But inside a conical dwelling made of buffalo hide and wooden poles, something remarkable is happening. A family is preparing for night, not preparing for sleep exactly. Preparing for night. The distinction matters more than you might think. There are no clocks here, no schedules. No one announces that it's bedtime. The sun simply leaves, taking light and warmth with it, and as darkness fills the sky like water filling a bowl, the family responds. Not with anxiety or urgency, but with the calm of people who have done this 10,000 times before. The fire at the center of their home burns steady, not roaring, not dramatic, just steady, patient flames consuming wood that was gathered weeks ago and stored with care. Around this fire, bodies begin to arrange themselves. Grandmother first moving slowly, her joints stiff from the day's cold. She knows her place, closest to the flames, because her old body generates less heat and needs more protection. Children next. 3 of them tonight. They're already drowsy, their small faces flushed from the warmth, their eyes half closed. They settle into the spaces grandmother indicates, not assigned exactly, but understood. The youngest in the middle, the older 2 on either side, creating a small wall of young bodies, young warmth. Then the parents, mother and father taking their positions, forming an outer ring. They'll be the barrier between the cold that seeps through the hide walls and the vulnerable center where the children sleep. And finally, the dogs. 2 of them. Shaggy, wolfish creatures who spent the day hunting and now seek their own rest. They curl at the edges, their thick fur an extra layer of insulation. Under thick robes of buffalo hide the family settles. And here's what I want you to understand. This settling, this arrangement, this gradual transition into the state we call sleep, it's nothing like your modern bedtime routine. There's no brushing teeth at a sink, no setting an alarm, no last check of phones or doors or thermostats. There's just the slow, organic process of bodies responding to darkness. This is not sleep as you know it. This is not 8 hours of unconsciousness measured and monitored and fretted over. This is something older, something that bends and flows like water shaped by the season, the darkness, the shared warmth of those you trust most in all the world. Tonight, I want to show you how the Lakota people, the Ojibwe, the peoples of the northern plains and forests, approached sleep when night was not an enemy to be managed with technology, but a companion to be understood. How they didn't fight against their own biology, but listened to it. How they transformed the vulnerability of unconsciousness into a collective strength. Because here's a secret that our ancestors knew, something we've forgotten in our electrified world. Sleep is not something you do alone. And waking in the night is not a failure. It's not insomnia. It's not a disorder to be fixed with pills or apps or weighted blankets bought online. It's simply how humans sleep when they're living in rhythm with the earth itself. The sun descends slowly on the winter plains. This is not the quick nightfall of the tropics where day flips to dark like a switch. This is gradual. The sky goes from blue to gold to orange to purple to deep indigo, each shade lasting long enough that you could watch the color change if you sat still and paid attention. For the people living here, this slow transition is important. It gives the body time to adjust, time to shift from the active state of day to the receptive state of night. There's no artificial light to confuse things, no bright screens telling the brain it's still afternoon when the sun says otherwise. Just the honest darkening of the world. Inside the teepee, this transition is marked by small rituals, not elaborate ceremonies, but simple practiced actions that signal the day's end. The fire, which has been burning since morning, is tended with fresh attention. Someone, usually one of the women, adjusts the arrangement of logs. She's creating a specific kind of burn, not hot and fast, which would consume too much precious wood, but slow and steady, a burn that will maintain moderate warmth through the long hours ahead. The skill required here is considerable. Too much fire, and the teepee becomes stifling. The air dries out, throats crack, eyes burn from smoke. Too little fire and the cold creeps in. People wake shivering, unable to return to sleep. So she builds it just right. Logs arranged to create a steady consumption. Enough flame to push back the worst cold, but not so much that it dominates the space. While she does this, others are preparing the sleeping area. The floor of the teepee has been lined with spruce branches earlier in the day, but now they're checked, adjusted. Any branches that have flattened too much are replaced. The goal is to create a springy mattress that lifts bodies several inches off the frozen ground, because the earth itself is an enemy in winter. It sucks heat from anything that touches it, drawing warmth down and down until fingers and toes go numb. The spruce branches solve this problem elegantly. They're flexible enough to be comfortable, dense enough to provide real insulation, and they smell good. That sharp, clean scent of evergreen fills the teepee, mixing with the wood smoke to create an aroma that means home safety warmth. On top of the spruce boughs, more layers, hides of deer and elk tanned and softened. These provide another barrier against the cold earth and a smoother surface to lie on. And on top of everything, the sleeping robes. These are made from buffalo hide, thick and heavy. Each robe weighs perhaps 15 or 20 pounds. When you first slide beneath one, the weight is almost shocking. It presses down on you like a physical presence, and for a moment, especially if you're new to this, you might feel trapped. But that weight is the key to warmth. The thick hide and dense fur create an insulating layer that traps air, and air, when it's trapped and still, is an excellent insulator. Your body heat warms this trapped air, and the robe prevents it from escaping. But here's the thing that makes this system truly work. One body under one robe, even a thick buffalo robe, loses heat faster than you'd think. The cold finds ways in, along the edges, through small gaps, via the parts of you that touch the ground beneath. But when multiple bodies press together under a shared robe, when you're lying shoulder to shoulder and hip to hip with your family, something remarkable happens. You become a collective heat source. Your 100 watts of body heat combines with their 100 watts, 200 watts, 300, 400. And all that heat is trapped together beneath the heavy robe, creating a microclimate that can be 30 or 40 degrees warmer than the air outside. This is not theory. This is survival. And everyone in the teepee knows it with a certainty that goes beyond words. Alone you might die in the night, together you live. So as darkness deepens, as the last traces of purple fade from the sky, and stars begin to appear through the smoke hole at the teepee's peak, the family arranges itself. This arrangement follows an understood pattern refined through generations. The most vulnerable in the center, the strongest at the edges, heat generators where they're needed most. Grandmother settles first. She's perhaps 60 winters old, which in this time and place makes her remarkably elderly. Her body is lean, her metabolism slower than it once was. She generates less heat than the young adults. So she takes a position near the fire, but not too near. Close enough to benefit from the flames, but far enough that she won't be too hot or bothered by smoke. The youngest child, a girl of perhaps 4 winters, nestles against grandmother's belly. The old woman wraps her arms around the child, creating a pocket of shared warmth. This is not just about heat. This is about connection, about the transmission of comfort from one generation to another. The child's breathing begins to slow almost immediately. The steady heartbeat of grandmother against her back is like a lullaby made physical. The 2 older children, a boy of 8 and a girl of 10, arrange themselves on either side of this central pair. They're old enough to understand their role, They're heat sources now, not just recipients. Their young bodies, active all day, are still radiating the energy of play and work. They press close, not out of neediness, but out of responsibility. Their warmth matters. Mother takes position on one side of this growing cluster, father on the other. They're the outer wall, the barrier between the cold world and the warm center. Mother's back is to the teepee's edge, taking the brunt of any cold air that seeps through. Father positions himself to block drafts from the entrance. Neither of them thinks about this consciously. It's automatic, instinctive, the way they've done it for years. And the dogs. We can't forget the dogs. One of them, an older female, curls against Mother's legs. Her thick coat is still damp from snow, but she's warm underneath, and the moisture doesn't matter. In fact, in the dry winter air, the slight humidity from her coat is probably beneficial. The other dog, younger and more restless, settles near Father's feet. He'll move several times through the night seeking the perfect spot, but for now, he's still. Under the buffalo robe, all these bodies begin to create heat. At first, it's almost uncomfortable. You're pressed too close to other people. You can feel every movement they make. Someone's elbow is in an unfortunate position. Someone else is breathing too close to your face. The robe itself is heavy, almost suffocating, but you don't move. You stay still, because moving disrupts the emerging warmth. Every shift, every adjustment lets cold air in and warm air out, so you hold position. And gradually, minute by minute, the discomfort transforms into something else. Warmth begins to build. Real, penetrating warmth. It starts where bodies touch most directly, where shoulder presses against shoulder, where the small of one person's back nestles against another's stomach. At these contact points, heat transfers directly, not through air, but through skin and hide and fabric. And from these points, it spreads. Your side, which was cold, starts to feel warm, then your arm, your leg. The parts of you that were exposed to the cool air of the teepee are now insulated by the warmth of others. And as everyone's individual heat combines, as the space beneath the robe warms, you stop noticing the discomfort. The elbow that was poking you doesn't seem to matter anymore. The breath on your face becomes just another part of the soundscape of night. The fire burns steady. Outside, the temperature continues to drop. This is the pattern in winter on the plains. As the earth loses the sun's heat, as the vast dome of sky opens to the infinite cold of space, the temperature plummets. 20 below at sunset can become 40 below by midnight. The kind of cold that makes trees crack like gunshots. The kind of cold that can kill. But inside, beneath the robe, you're safe. More than safe. You're warm. And as that warmth settles into your bones, as your muscles relax and your breathing deepens, you feel something else. Something harder to name, but just as important as the physical warmth. You feel held. Not metaphorically, but literally. The weight of the robe above you, the press of bodies around you, the solidity of earth beneath you. You are contained, cradled, supported on all sides. And this feeling, this physical sense of being held, triggers something deep in your nervous system. Safety. Your brain, which has been monitoring threats all day, begins to power down those monitoring systems. The adrenaline in your blood drops. Cortisol levels fall. Oxytocin, that hormone of bonding and trust, begins to rise. Your heart rate slows. Your breathing deepens. And without making any conscious decision to sleep, you begin to drift. This is not the sudden drop into unconsciousness that some modern people experience, crashing into sleep from exhaustion. This is gentler, a gradual letting go, like a leaf falling from a tree, spinning slowly down through layers of air until it finally comes to rest. Around you, the same thing is happening to everyone else. One by one, the family members slip into that first deep sleep. You can tell when someone crosses the threshold. Their breathing changes, becomes slower, more regular. The subtle tension of wakefulness leaves their body. They go heavy in a way that's different from simple relaxation. The children are first. They were already drowsy, and the warmth finishes what the fading light began. The youngest goes deepest, fastest, her small chest rising and falling with perfect regularity. The older children follow. And then gradually, the adults. Grandmother is next, her weathered face going slack. her arms still wrapped around the youngest child, but now with the unconscious grip of sleep rather than the conscious hold of protection. Mother and father hold out longer, some part of them still alert, still on watch, but eventually even they surrender. And then the teepee becomes a chamber of sleep. 6 humans and 2 dogs all breathing in slow rhythm. The fire crackles softly. Outside, the wind moves across the frozen prairie. But inside, in this small space, there is warmth and stillness and the deep peace of sleep. This first sleep is profound. Your body, which has been active since dawn, which has walked and worked and dealt with cold and effort, finally gets the rest it craves. In this phase, which might last 4 or 5 or even 6 hours, you sleep as deeply as you ever will. Your brain cycles through its stages of sleep, light sleep giving way to deep sleep, then deeper still into the delta wave territory where the brain does its most important restoration work. Your muscles relax completely. Your temperature drops slightly as your metabolism slows. Your breathing becomes so steady that if someone were watching, they might count the seconds between breaths and find the same number every time. 12 seconds. 13. Perfectly regular. The fire burns down. This is intentional, as I mentioned. No one expects it to burn bright all night. That would waste wood, create too much heat, fill the teepee with smoke. So it's been built to burn down to coals. Those coals still radiate heat, still keep the worst cold at bay. But they don't flame. They just glow deep red in the darkness, pulsing slightly as air moves across them. Hours pass. How many? In this world without clocks, the question is meaningless. Enough hours for deep rest, enough hours for the body to do its work of repair and restoration. Enough hours for dreams to come and go, though in this first deep sleep, dreams are often forgotten. They happen in layers of consciousness too deep to be easily retrieved. But then gradually, something shifts. The temperature in the teepee drops. Not dramatically, maybe just a degree or two, but it's enough. Enough to begin bringing people up from the depths of sleep. Not to full wakefulness, not yet, but to a lighter stage where awareness begins to return. You become vaguely conscious of your body again, of the position you're lying in, of the weight of the robe, of the cold air touching your face, the only part of you exposed to the teepee's air. And somewhere in your sleeping brain, without rising fully to consciousness, you register that the fire has burned low. Someone else registers it too. Usually it's one of the elders, grandmother perhaps, or grandfather if he's present. Their sleep is lighter than the young people's, more easily disturbed, and they're attuned to the fire in a way that comes from decades of tending it. They can sense even in sleep when it needs attention. Grandmother's eyes open. She doesn't jolt awake. There's no alarm, no panic. She simply transitions from sleeping to waking as smoothly as breathing. For a moment, she lies still, assessing. How cold is it? How low is the fire? Does it need attention now, or can it wait a bit longer? The cold air on her face tells her. Now is the time. She moves carefully. The youngest child is still pressed against her deep in sleep. Grandmother doesn't want to wake her. So she shifts with practiced precision, creating just enough space to slide out from under the robe without letting in too much cold air. It's a maneuver she's performed thousands of times. She knows exactly how to lift the edge of the heavy hide, how to slip her body out while keeping the gap minimal. The cold hits her immediately. After the warmth beneath the robe, the air of the teepee feels shockingly cold. Not as cold as outside, certainly. The teepee's structure and the residual heat from the fire keep it warmer than the open air, but cold enough to make her move quickly. She's wearing her day clothes still. In winter, people often sleep fully dressed, removing only outer layers. It's simply too cold to do otherwise. So she's not naked to the cold, but still she feels it, sharp against her face, biting at her hands. She moves to the fire. The coals are still there, glowing in the darkness. Good. That means the fire hasn't gone completely out. It would be much harder to restart from nothing. She selects pieces of wood from the pile kept inside the teepee for this purpose. Not the largest logs. Those would create too much flame, too much smoke. But medium-sized pieces, dry wood that will catch quickly. She arranges these on the coals with care. Precise placement matters. Too close together and they'll smother each other, preventing air from feeding the flames. Too far apart, and each piece will burn independently wastefully. She spaces them just right, creating channels for air to flow. Then she waits, kneeling by the fire, hands outstretched toward the coals. The heat from the embers warms her palms. After a minute, maybe two, the first small flames appear, yellow tongues licking at the wood. She blows gently, encouraging them. The flames grow. Success. The fire is renewed. But grandmother doesn't rush back to the warmth of the buffalo robe. She sits for a moment, watching the flames take hold. This is her time. A few minutes of solitude in the depths of night. The others are sleeping. The world is quiet except for the crack of burning wood and the soft breathing of her family. She thinks about nothing in particular. Or perhaps she thinks about everything. The day that passed, the day to come, the winter that seems to have no end. But these thoughts are gentle, undemanding. She's not solving problems or making plans. She's just present. With the fire, with the night, with the weight of her years and the warmth slowly building around her. Behind her, under the robe, someone else stirs slightly. The change in temperature, the slight increase in light from the renewed flames, has brought them up a level in sleep. They don't wake, but they shift, adjust, settle back down. And this is when something beautiful happens, something that might seem small but is actually profound. The person who shifted in moving has created a tiny gap in the warmth cocoon, just a small space where cold air could creep in. But before it can, the person next to them moves too, not consciously, not with any awareness of what they're doing, but their body monitoring the situation even in sleep shifts to close the gap. Hip moves against hip. Shoulder presses more firmly against shoulder. The gap closes. The warmth is maintained. And both people settle back into deeper sleep, the brief disruption already forgotten. This is the unconscious dance of communal sleeping. Everyone participating, everyone contributing, everyone benefiting, no one leading, no one following. Just a collective adjustment to maintain the collective warmth. Grandmother watches this, seeing the subtle movements under the buffalo robe. A small smile touches her face, her family, her people, sleeping safe and warm because they're together. This is what life is. Not the grand moments, not the dramatic events, but this, the quiet tending of fire and family through the long winter night. She adds one more piece of wood. Then, moving as carefully as she did when leaving, she returns to the robe, lifts the edge, slides back into her place. The child, still sleeping, makes a small sound of contentment as grandmother's warmth returns. The old woman settles, pulling the robe back into position, and almost immediately the residual warmth that remained in her absence, plus her own body heat returning, plus the renewed fire combine. The temperature beneath the robe stabilizes, rises slightly. Everyone, without waking, relaxes a bit deeper into sleep. This is the space between the first sleep and the second sleep. The wakeful interval that historians call the watch in European contexts, but which here has no name because it's simply normal. Grandmother doesn't think I have completed my watch duty. She just thinks, if she thinks anything at all, the fire is tended. We are warm. I can sleep again. And she does. Her eyes close, her breathing deepens. Within minutes, she's back in sleep. Not as deep as the first sleep, perhaps. This second sleep is lighter, more prone to dreams, but it's sleep nonetheless. Around her, the teepee breathes. The hide walls expand slightly with the warmth inside, contract with the cold outside. It's alive, this structure. Not literally, of course, but it feels alive. A living creature of wood and hide and human presence, sheltering the family against the night. The fire burns steady now, not high, but steady. Flames dancing across the new wood. Shadows flicker on the walls. And in the midst of this small circle of light and warmth, 6 people and 2 dogs sleep on. Outside, the stars wheel slowly overhead. Constellations the Lakota have names for stories, for move across the sky. The Big Dipper, Orion, the Pleiades. Time passes in the way it does on winter nights, slowly, heavily. Each hour weighted with cold and darkness, but inside time feels different. It doesn't pass so much as deepen. Sleep is not a progression toward morning, but a state that exists independent of time. You're not sleeping for 8 hours until the alarm goes off. You're sleeping because it's night, because your body needs rest, because this is what humans do when darkness comes. And if you wake, it's not with anxiety about lost sleep or calculations about how many hours remain. You wake because the fire needs tending, or because your body has completed a sleep cycle and risen naturally to lighter consciousness, or because you need to shift position to ease a hip or shoulder that's been pressed too long against hard ground beneath the hides. When you wake like this, you're not jolted. You don't grab for a phone to check the time. You simply open your eyes, register where you are, feel the warmth around you. Maybe you tend the fire, or maybe someone else has just done it and the flames are bright. Maybe you lie there for a few minutes half awake listening to the breathing of your family. And then you sleep again, easily, naturally. Because sleep in this world is not something you have to fight for or achieve. It's simply what happens when you're warm and safe and surrounded by people who love you. The second sleep is different from the first. I've mentioned this, but it's worth exploring more deeply. That first sleep is about recovery, deep restorative rest for a body that's worked hard all day. But the second sleep is about something else. Integration, perhaps. Processing. This is when dreams come. Not the confused, fragmented dreams of light sleep, but rich narrative dreams. Dreams that feel more real than waking life. In these dreams you might see the hunt, might run with the buffalo across summer grass, might speak with ancestors who've been dead for generations, might receive visions that when you wake, you'll share with the elders and they'll interpret. In Lakota culture, in Ojibwe, culture dreams are not dismissed as mere neurology. They're communications, messages from the spirit world, warnings, promises, guidance. A powerful dream is something to be taken seriously, to be shared, to be acted upon. So when the second sleep brings dreams, you're not just resting. You're connecting with something larger, the ancestors, the spirits, the great mystery that underlies all of existence. And when morning finally comes, when the first gray light begins to seep through the smoke hole, the first thing people do after waking is share their dreams. I dreamed of the white buffalo, someone might say, and the whole family will discuss what this might mean. Is it a sign of blessing? A warning. An instruction. But we're not at morning yet. We're still deep in night. In the second sleep. In the time when the world is most fully dark and the stars most brilliant and the cold most intense. In the time when humans huddled together under buffalo robes, sleep the sleep their ancestors have slept for thousands upon thousands of years. Safe, warm, together. Now let me tell you about your body's relationship with heat. Not in technical terms, not with charts and graphs, but in the way you can feel it, understand it, live it. Right now, this very moment, you are a furnace. Your body is burning fuel, converting the food you ate into energy, and a byproduct of that conversion is heat. About 100 watts worth. Picture a bright incandescent bulb, the old-fashioned kind. That's how much heat you're putting out. Every minute, every hour, constantly. In your modern bedroom, this doesn't seem like much. Your room is temperature controlled, maybe 70 degrees, maybe 68. Whatever you prefer, your body's 100 watts radiates into the larger space. Some of it warms the air immediately around you. Most of it dissipates, joining the general warmth of the room, and your heating system compensates, keeping everything balanced. But transport yourself now, back to that teepee, back to a world where the air temperature inside your shelter might be 30 degrees, 40 degrees, and outside, as I've mentioned, 20 below or worse. In this context, your 100 watts of body heat is not trivial. It's the difference between survival and death. Here's what happens when you lie down alone in the cold. Your body radiates heat in all directions, up, down, sideways. That heat warms the air immediately around you. But warm air, as you might know, rises. So the warmth you're creating floats up away from you. Meanwhile, cold air, which is denser, sinks down, flowing in to replace the warm air you've lost. This creates a constant circulation, your heat escaping, cold returning to take its place. A blanket helps. Even a thick buffalo robe helps significantly. It traps a layer of air between you and the cold, and air when it's trapped and still is an excellent insulator. The robe prevents the warm air from escaping upward quite so fast. It slows the circulation, so you stay warmer than you would without it. But there's a limit to what one body under one blanket can achieve, because you're still losing heat at every edge, where your head emerges from the blanket, where the blanket meets the ground. Through the material itself, even thick buffalo hide some heat conducts through. And you're only generating that 100 watts, only one source of warmth. Now, imagine a different scenario. You're not alone under that robe. There's someone next to you, another human body, another 100-watt furnace. Immediately the mathematics of heat changes. You're now generating 200 watts collectively. But it's not just about the total wattage, it's about surface area. When you're alone, your entire body surface is exposed to cold or to the relatively inefficient insulation of the blanket. But when someone is pressed against your side, that entire side of your body is no longer losing heat to cold air. It's exchanging heat with another warm body. The result is remarkable. The temperature in the space you share rises faster and higher than either of you could achieve alone, and the warmth is more stable, less prone to the drafts and circulations that plague a single person sleeping. Add a third body, a fourth, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now you're not just staying warm, you're creating a genuine microclimate, a pocket of warmth that can be 30-40 degrees warmer than the surrounding air. Warm enough that you could almost sleep comfortably without the buffalo robe at all, though of course you'd never try. Let me paint you a more detailed picture of how this works in practice. You're lying in that teepee now. It's your second winter doing this, so you're no longer surprised by the arrangement, but you're still getting used to it. On your left side is your younger sister. She's perhaps 11 winters old. Small, lean, her body not generating as much heat as an adult's. But she's positioned closest to the fire, and the radiant heat from those flames warms her first and most directly. Her back is to the fire. The warmth soaks into her skin, into the layers of buckskin and fur she's wearing, into the buffalo robe covering her. And then it radiates outward, toward you. Where her back meets your chest, you feel it directly. A patch of warmth, almost hot where contact is firmest. And from that point, the heat spreads along your ribs, across your stomach, down your arm that's draped over her shoulder. On your right side is your mother. She's larger than you, stronger, her body a powerhouse of heat generation. She spent the day processing hides, scraping and softening and tanning work that requires tremendous physical effort. Her muscles are still warm from that labor, still radiating heat hours after she stopped working. Where her body presses against yours from shoulder to hip to knee, you feel that warmth. Solid, reliable, like lying against a warm stone that's been in the sun all day. Behind you, curved to fit the shape of your back, is your father. He's the largest person in the family, the most heat he generates. He spent the day hauling wood-setting snares, checking on the horses hobbled nearby. Hard physical labor in intense cold. And now, as he sleeps, all that metabolic heat is still pouring off him. Where his chest presses against your back, you feel it most intensely. A spot of almost uncomfortable warmth that spreads slowly outward, seeping through your clothing, through the buffalo robe, warming you from behind. At your feet, as I've described the dogs. The older female dog is pressed against your mother's calves, but her warmth extends. Your own feet, tucked beneath the robe, benefit from the general warmth she's contributing to the collective pocket. The younger dog, restless, still has settled near your father's feet, but he'll move again before the night is through. Seeking, adjusting, finding the perfect balance of warmth and comfort. All of these heat sources, all of these living furnaces operating at slightly different temperatures, create something remarkable. Under the buffalo robe, the air warms quickly. Within 15 minutes of everyone settling, and the temperature inside your cocoon might be 50 degrees. Within 30 minutes, 60. Within an hour, it might reach 65 or even 70 degrees, depending on how cold it is outside and how many bodies are clustered together. And this warmth doesn't come from one direction. That's the key. It's not like sitting in front of a fire where one side of you roasts while the other freezes. This warmth is omnidirectional, coming from above where the robe traps your collective heat, from below where the layers of hides and spruce boughs insulate you from the frozen earth, from your left where your sister radiates warmth, from your right where your mother does the same, from behind where your father's heat presses against your back. You're not just warmed, you're immersed in warmth, surrounded, held by it as surely as you're held by the physical presence of your family. Now, there's a science to this that the Lakota understood instinctively without thermodynamics textbooks. Heat transfer happens in three ways: conduction, convection, and radiation. Conduction is direct contact, your skin against someone else's skin or against the fabric between you. This is the most efficient form of heat transfer, and it's why pressing close matters so much. Every point of contact is a point where heat flows directly from the warmer body to the cooler one seeking equilibrium. Convection is the movement of air. Warm air, rising cool air, sinking, creating circulation. By trapping air under the buffalo robe and keeping it relatively still, you minimize convective heat loss. The air warms and stays warm instead of cycling away. Radiation is the heat you emit just by being warm, the same way the sun warms the earth across the vacuum of space. Every warm body radiates heat. Under the robe, all those radiating bodies create a field of warmth that fills the space. The Lakota didn't use these terms, but they knew the principles. They knew that contact mattered, that stillness mattered, that bringing multiple bodies together under one covering created warmth that exceeded the sum of its parts. There's another factor too: humidity. Every breath you exhale carries moisture, water vapor from your lungs. When you breathe into cold air, you can see this moisture condensing into tiny droplets. Your breath becomes visible, a small cloud in the cold. But under the buffalo robe, this moisture doesn't condense and freeze. It stays as vapor, warming the air, making it more humid. And humid air feels warmer than dry air at the same temperature. This is a well-established principle. It's why dry cold feels different from wet cold, why 90 degrees in the desert feels different from 90 degrees in the tropics. Inside the teepee's sleeping cocoon, the humidity rises, not to uncomfortable levels. There's no condensation dripping from the robe's underside, but enough that the air feels softer, warmer, less harsh against your throat and lungs. Each person contributes to this. 6 people breathing steadily, each exhaling warm, humid air, create a significant change in the microclimate. The dogs contribute too, their panting breath adding moisture and warmth. Even the small amount of moisture that evaporates from skin from the slightly damp hides helps. It all combines to create an environment that's not just warmer, but more comfortable, more conducive to deep, restful sleep. Now let's talk about what happens when someone moves, because movement is inevitable even in sleep. You can't lie perfectly still all night. Your body needs to shift position, to ease pressure on a hip or shoulder, to adjust blood flow to a limb that's going numb. When you move, several things happen simultaneously. First, you break contact. The patch of warm skin where you were pressed against someone suddenly loses that warmth source. Cold air rushes into the gap. Second, you lift the buffalo robe slightly. However carefully you move, however much you try to minimize disruption, the robe shifts. And when it shifts, some of the precious warm air escapes. Cold air flows in to replace it. Third, your movement can wake or disturb the people around you. So there's a strong incentive, both social and physiological, to move as little as possible. Children are taught this from their earliest winners. Not through scolding or punishment, but through gentle guidance and more powerfully through the immediate feedback of their own bodies. Move too much and you get cold. Hold still and you stay warm. The lesson teaches itself. But when movement is necessary, something beautiful happens. The collective responds, not consciously, not with discussion or negotiation, but automatically, the way a flock of birds adjusts when one bird changes direction. Say you need to roll from your right side to your left. You've been lying on your right for several hours and that hip is aching. So you shift. As you roll, you create space behind you where your back was pressed against your father. Cold air enters that space. But before it can become a problem, your father shifts too. Not because you woke him, not because he's aware of what you're doing, but because his sleeping body monitoring temperature and contact registers the loss of warmth and automatically adjusts. His body follows yours, maintaining contact, closing the gap. Meanwhile, your sister, who you're now facing instead of having your back to her, makes her own micro-adjustment. She's been lying relatively flat, but now she curls slightly, bringing her back more firmly against your chest. Again, this isn't conscious. Her sleeping mind doesn't think, "My sibling has rolled over, I should adjust." It just happens. The collective warmth is maintained through thousands of tiny, unconscious adjustments. This is the genius of communal sleeping. It's not just that multiple bodies generate more heat. It's that they create a self-regulating system. The warmth is monitored and maintained by everyone simultaneously without any need for conscious coordination. Think about it this way. When you sleep alone, you're solely responsible for your own warmth. If you get cold, only you can do something about it. Pull up a blanket, curl into a ball, get up and adjust the thermostat. But when you sleep communally, the responsibility is shared, and the solutions are automatic. You don't have to wake up and actively solve the problem of being cold. The collective warmth, the collective adjustment, solves it for you. This has profound implications for sleep quality. Studies of modern humans have shown that micro-wakings, brief moments where you rise close to consciousness before dropping back into sleep, are a normal part of the sleep cycle. Everyone has them. Dozens per night. Usually you don't remember them. But these micro-wakings can turn into full wakings if there's a problem that needs solving. If you're cold and need to adjust a blanket, if you're uncomfortable and need to change position. When you sleep communally, many of these problems solve themselves before they can cause a full waking. The collective warmth maintains itself. Position adjustments happen smoothly with minimal disruption. The result is that paradoxically, you might actually sleep more deeply, despite being in closer proximity to potential disturbances. Your nervous system can relax more completely, because it's not solely responsible for monitoring and maintaining your safety and comfort. Let me tell you about a specific night. The coldest night of the winter. The kind of night that's remembered and talked about for years. The wind has been building all day, and by nightfall, it's a sustained roar. Not gusting, just constant, relentless pressure against the tipi's walls. The hide shudders and strains against its bindings, but it holds. It's designed for this. Outside, the temperature has dropped to 40 below, possibly 50 below with the wind chill, though, of course, no one is measuring. This is cold that kills. Cold that can freeze exposed flesh in under a minute. Cold that makes breathing painful, that makes the air itself seem sharp and dangerous. Inside, the family knows this is a serious night. There's no discussion. Everyone just understands. The fire is built slightly higher than usual, not too high but higher. The buffalo robes are arranged with extra care, and the sleeping arrangement is tighter than usual. Grandmother, who usually sleeps near but not at the absolute center, is moved to the middle tonight. She's the most vulnerable, the oldest, the least able to generate her own heat. So she goes where it's warmest. The children cluster around her, not just for their own warmth, but to contribute theirs to her. The adults form a complete outer ring, shoulder to shoulder with no gaps. They're the wall between the killing cold and the vulnerable center. And the dogs, both of them, are brought into the cluster rather than allowed to sleep at the periphery. Every source of warmth matters tonight. Under the buffalo robe pressed together more tightly than usual, the family generates heat. It takes longer tonight. The cold is so intense that it's actively stealing warmth faster than usual, but gradually, incrementally, the warmth builds and holds. Through that night, no one sleeps as deeply as usual. Some part of everyone's mind is monitoring, listening to the wind, feeling the temperature, ready to wake if needed to tend the fire, to add more wood, to pull the robes tighter. But no one panics. No one lies awake with anxiety, because they ear together, and together they're surviving. By morning, when the wind finally dies and the sun rises on a world transformed by frost, the family emerges from under the robe. Stiff, cold despite their best efforts, but alive, all of them. Alive because they shared warmth, because they understood that in the most brutal cold, alone means death and together means survival. This is not metaphor. This is literal truth. And it's a truth that shaped every aspect of how these people lived. Not just how they slept, but how they thought about community, about responsibility, about what it means to be human. In modern Western culture, we celebrate independence, self-sufficiency, the ability to take care of yourself without needing others. These are considered virtues, signs of maturity and strength. But in the teepee in the winter night, independence is a death sentence. The person who insists they can manage alone, who doesn't want to press close to others, who values personal space over collective warmth, that person dies. The culture that developed in this context couldn't celebrate independence the way we do. It had to celebrate interdependence, the recognition that we need each other, that survival depends on connection. And sleep, this most vulnerable state, became the ultimate expression of that interdependence. Every night you literally entrusted your life to your family. You made yourself unconscious, helpless, and trusted them to keep you warm, to keep you safe, to maintain the fire, to monitor the night. And they trusted you the same way. This trust, renewed every single night for an entire lifetime, created bonds that are almost impossible for modern people to understand. Because we don't have that experience. We sleep alone in private rooms behind locked doors. We take care of ourselves. And in doing so, we miss something profound. We miss the deep bodily knowledge that we are not meant to face the darkness alone. That vulnerability, when shared, becomes strength. That the warmth of human connection is not just emotional or psychological, but literal, physical, a matter of survival. Your body knows this. Even now, even in your climate-controlled bedroom, some part of you remembers. That's why you might unconsciously move toward a partner in your sleep. Why you feel comforted by the presence of a pet on the bed. Why weighted blankets which simulate the pressure of another body have become so popular. Your ancient biology is trying to tell you something the Lakota never forgot. That together is not just nicer than alone, it's better, safer, warmer, more human. This is where we move from the mechanics of warmth to something deeper. Something that happens when bodies share space and breath and heat for long enough that the boundaries between them begin to blur. You're back in that teepee now. The fire has been tended. The second sleep is approaching. The deep cold of the middle night surrounds the small circle of warmth. And as you lie there still partially awake, you become aware of something you hadn't noticed before. The breathing around you is synchronizing. Your mother breathes with a deep, steady rhythm. She's always been a calm sleeper, her breath slow and regular as waves on a shore. Your father's breath is even slower, deeper. The sound of it is almost like a drum in the darkness, low and resonant. The children breathe faster. Their small lungs, their higher metabolisms require more frequent cycles. In, out, quick but not frantic. And grandmother, her breath is the most interesting. It's shallow compared to the others, not pulling as much air with each inhale, but it's perfectly steady. The breath of someone who has slept through 10,000 nights and knows without thinking how to breathe in sleep. The dogs add their own rhythms. The older dog breathes silently, barely audible, but occasionally her breath catches in a small snore. The younger dog's breath is more active, sometimes accelerating as he dreams of running, then slowing again as the dream fades. All these different rhythms, all these separate beings, each with their own pace, their own internal clock. But as the minutes pass, as the warmth settles and everyone sinks deeper toward sleep, something remarkable happens. They begin to align, not perfectly. This isn't a choir hitting the same note at the same instant, but the rhythms start to influence each other. Your mother inhales, and half a second later, so do you. Your father exhales, and the sound of it seems to pull your own exhale along. Grandmother's steady pace becomes a kind of baseline, and everyone's breathing moves toward it, orbiting it like planets around a sun. This is not imagination. This is measurable biological reality. Humans and many other mammals exhibit what scientists call respiratory synchrony when in close proximity. Your nervous system picks up on the breathing of those around you. Mirror neurons fire, your diaphragm adjusts. Unconsciously, without any deliberate effort, you begin to breathe together. The effect is subtle but powerful. As breathing aligns, heart rates begin to follow, not beating in exact unison, but slowing to similar rhythms. The fast, anxious heartbeat of day, responding to cold and effort and worry, eases into the slower drumbeat of night. 70 beats per minute becomes 60. 60 becomes 50. Down and down into the deep rest of sleep. Stress hormones drop. Cortisol, which has been elevated all day in response to cold and hunger and the constant low-level challenge of survival, begins to ebb. Oxytocin rises. This is the hormone of bonding, of trust. It's released during intimate moments, during nursing of babies, during acts of physical affection. And it's released now as you lie pressed against your family, breathing in rhythm, with them hearts beating in loose synchrony. The effect on consciousness is profound. You're not just falling asleep, you're merging in some sense with the collective. Your individual awareness, which has been sharp and separate all day, begins to blur at the edges. You're still you, but you're also part of something larger, the family. The breathing warmth generating collective under the buffalo robe. This is hard to describe to someone who's never experienced it. In modern culture, we guard our individual consciousness carefully. We value clear boundaries between self and other. The idea of those boundaries blurring even temporarily, even in sleep, might seem threatening or uncomfortable. But in the teepee, it's not threatening. It's deeply comforting. You're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself in connection. You're experiencing what humans evolved to experience. The safety and peace of being part of a group that breathes together, warms together, survives together. Let me tell you what happens when the youngest child, the 4-year-old girl, wakes briefly in the night. She doesn't wake fully, just surfaces a little from sleep, enough to become vaguely aware that she needs to shift position. Her arm has gone to sleep pins and needles prickling. She turns slightly, rolling from her left side to her back. In the process, she moves away from grandmother's warmth. The space between them opens. Cold air, relative cold anyway, begins to seep into that gap. But watch what happens. Grandmother, still asleep, feels the loss of contact. Some ancient part of her brain, the part that's been keeping watch even in sleep, registers that the child has moved away. And without waking, without any conscious thought, grandmother shifts. She turns slightly toward the child, closes the gap. Her arm, which had been resting on her own side, now drapes across the child's small chest. The child, feeling grandmother's warmth returning, feeling the weight of that arm, settles immediately. Her brief half-waking ends. She drops back into deep sleep. The whole interaction takes perhaps 30 seconds. Neither of them will remember it in the morning, but watch further. The child's movement and grandmother's response created a small ripple through the sleeping arrangement. Grandmother has turned, which means she's no longer pressed quite so firmly against the next person in line. One of the older children. That child, registering the slight loss of warmth, shifts too. Moves a little closer to grandmother, and that shift affects the next person and the next. Like dominoes falling but in slow motion, and without the crash, the entire family adjusts. Each person moving just slightly. Each movement both responding to a change and creating a new one. Within a minute, everyone has found new positions, new points of contact. The collective warmth has been maintained. No one has fully woken. The sleep continues. This is the dance I mentioned before. But now you can see it more clearly, feel it more viscerally. This is not just individuals trying to stay warm. This is a single organism, a collective body with many parts all working together without conscious coordination. Anthropologists have a term for this kind of social organization. They call it organic solidarity, the idea that a group functions like a body where each part has a role and all the parts work together for the survival of the whole. Usually this term is applied to societies, to social roles and economic functions. But here in the sleeping teepee, it's literal, not metaphorical. The family actually does function as a single organism at night. A warmth-generating, self-regulating system where individual needs and collective needs are so perfectly aligned that there's no distinction between them. You stay warm because the collective stays warm. The collective stays warm because you and everyone else contributes warmth and adjusts positions and maintains the system. There's no free rider problem. No one who could benefit without contributing. Everyone gives warmth. Everyone receives warmth. The exchange is perfect and automatic. Now let me tell you about the emotional dimension of this, because it's not just about temperature. It's about what it feels like emotionally and psychologically to sleep this way. Imagine you're a child in this family. Say you're 7 winters old. You've been sleeping in the family cluster since you were born. This is the only way you've ever slept. And what that means is that you've literally never, not once in your entire life, been alone in the dark. Every night, every single night of your existence, you've closed your eyes surrounded by your family. You've felt their warmth, heard their breathing, been aware even in sleep of their presence. And this has shaped you at the deepest possible level. Your nervous system, your sense of safety, your understanding of what it means to be human. When you wake in the night, if you wake, you don't experience the terror that many modern children feel. That sudden panic of waking alone in darkness. You don't cry out for a parent to come comfort you, because they are already there, right there. Your mother's back is pressed against your chest. Your father's leg is touching yours. Grandmother's steady breathing fills the space. You're not alone. You've never been alone. And on some fundamental level, you don't even understand the concept of being alone at night. It's as foreign to you as the idea of breathing without air. This creates a baseline of security that's hard to overstate. Modern psychology talks about attachment theory, about how children who feel secure in their early relationships develop into healthier adults. Well, imagine the level of security created by spending every night of your childhood in physical contact with your family. Not just emotionally available, but physically present. Touching. Sharing warmth. The attachment formed in this context is almost unbreakable, not because of any particular actions or words during the day, but because of this nightly ritual of shared vulnerability. Your family keeps you warm, keeps you safe, keeps you alive through the night, and you, even as a small child, contribute to keeping them warm too. You matter. Your presence, your warmth makes a difference. Now imagine you're a young adult, perhaps 14 or 15 winters. You're at that age where in modern culture, you'd be agitating for your own room, your own space, privacy, independence. But in the teepee, that agitation doesn't really happen. Not because it's forbidden, but because it doesn't make sense. Why would you want to sleep alone? Alone means cold. Alone means vulnerable. Alone means the long night has no companionship, no shared breath, no unconscious dance of warmth and adjustment. Instead, your understanding of adulthood is growing in a different direction. You're becoming aware that you're not just a recipient of warmth, but a significant generator of it. Your body maturing is stronger now, produces more heat. You're starting to take positions in the sleeping arrangement that reflect this. Positions on the outer edge, sometimes where the cold is more intense. Positions where your heat can shield someone more vulnerable. This is how you learn responsibility. Not through lectures about duty, but through the direct experience of your warmth mattering. Of someone's grandmother or little brother, depending on the heat your body generates. You feel it. Every night. The weight of being needed and the satisfaction of meeting that need. And when you eventually form your own family, when you bring a partner into your life, the first night you sleep together in the family teepee is not awkward or strange. It's a homecoming, another person to share warmth with, another heartbeat to add to the collective rhythm, another breath to synchronize with yours. The intimacy of this is total. In modern culture, we save this kind of physical closeness for romantic partners alone. The only person you might sleep pressed against, feeling their breath, their heartbeat, is someone you're romantically involved with. But in the teepee, this intimacy is shared with your entire family. It's not romantic. It's not sexual. It's something different, something we don't really have a word for in modern English. Kinship intimacy, perhaps. The deep bodily knowledge of the people you're bound to by blood and shared survival. This creates relationships of a different quality than most modern people experience. You know your family not just through conversation and shared activities, but through sleep. through the unconscious hours when all pretense falls away and you're just bodies breathing together, warm together, alive together. You know your mother's sleep sounds. The small sigh she makes when she's deeply asleep. The slight whistle in your father's breath that means he's in light sleep and might wake soon. The way your grandmother's hand twitches when she's dreaming. The particular rhythm of your younger brother's breath when he's getting sick versus when he's healthy. This knowledge is intimate, precious. It can't be faked or performed. You can't know these things about someone without sleeping beside them night after night, season after season, year after year. And this knowledge creates bonds that are almost impossible to break, because you've been vulnerable together. Not just emotionally vulnerable, sharing secrets or fears, but physically vulnerable, unconscious, helpless. And you've protected each other in that vulnerability, kept each other warm, kept each other alive. There's a story I want to share. Not a true story about a specific person, but a composite based on many accounts. A story about a young man who had to travel alone in winter, perhaps to carry a message to another band, perhaps to track a wounded animal that ran far from camp. Whatever the reason, he found himself alone as night fell, far from his family, far from anyone. He built a small fire, wrapped himself in his own robe, did everything right technically, but he couldn't sleep, not deeply, because he was alone. Every sound woke him, every gust of wind. The fire needed constant tending because there was no one else to share that duty. When he did drift into light sleep, he woke shivering because his own body heat wasn't enough. Even when he was technically warm enough to survive, he felt cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. It was the coldness of isolation, of facing the night without the warmth of family. And when he returned to his band, when he finally slid back under the buffalo robe with his family around him, he wept. Not from relief exactly, but from the overwhelming rush of warmth and safety and belonging. This is what communal sleeping creates, not just the ability to survive cold, but the deep knowledge that you are not meant to face darkness alone. That isolation is a kind of poverty. That wealth, real wealth, is measured in the warmth of bodies pressed close and breath synchronized and hearts beating in loose rhythm. In the coldest nights, the collective warmth isn't just about degrees Fahrenheit. It's about the warmth of connection, of knowing you matter, of feeling yourself as part of something larger, of experiencing in your bones the truth that together is stronger than alone. And this truth learned in sleep carries into every aspect of life. The way resources are shared, the way decisions are made, the way conflicts are resolved, all of it informed by this nightly experience of interdependence. Because if you can trust someone with your sleeping body, with your unconscious vulnerability, you can trust them with anything. And if they've kept you warm through 1,000 winter nights, you'll keep them warm through whatever challenges day brings. This is the heart of it, the core truth that Western culture has largely forgotten. Sleep is not a private act. It's not something you do alone in a locked room. It's a collective state, a shared vulnerability that becomes shared strength. And in that sharing, in that nightly ritual of pressing close and breathing together and maintaining warmth, human bonds are forged that nothing can break. Not disagreement, not hardship, not even death, because the memory of sleeping warm together persists long after someone is gone. The buffalo robe holds you all. The darkness surrounds you. The cold presses from outside. But inside, there is warmth. Not just thermal warmth, but the warmth of love made tangible, the warmth of family, the warmth of being human in the fullest, deepest sense. And as sleep comes, as the second sleep pulls you down, into dreams you go willingly, gladly. Because you're not going alone. You're going with your family, into the shared darkness, into the shared warmth, into the mystery of sleep that humans have been entering together since the beginning of time. Before we talk about the air you breathe, I want you to feel what is underneath you and what is above you. Because the bed itself, this nest of survival, is not merely a surface. It is a sensory landscape all its own. Imagine for a moment that you can engage your sense of smell. In your modern bedroom, the air might smell of laundry detergent, or perhaps just the neutral scent of indoor climate control. But here in the winter teepee, the air is rich with the perfume of the forest. Remember those spruce boughs I mentioned, the ones layering the floor? They are not just insulation, they are aromatherapy. When the family lies down, their collective weight crushes the needles slightly. It breaks the small resin pockets in the wood and the greenery, and as the heat in the teepee rises, it releases the essential oils of the spruce. So as you drift off, you are breathing in the sharp, clean scent of balsam and pine resin. It's a smell that clears the sinuses, that feels like the essence of health. It mixes with the wood smoke from the fire-sweet cottonwood or sharp pine and the earthy musk scent of the cured buffalo hides. It is a smell that says earth. It grounds you. It reminds your sleeping brain that you are held by the land itself. And then there is the texture. You are not sleeping on smooth, high thread count cotton sheets. You are sleeping between worlds. Beneath you, the hair of the deer or elk hides is hollow, trapping air, creating a cushion that feels almost alive. It has a grain to it, a direction. If your hand strays in the night, you feel the coarse, natural bristle of the fur. Above you, the buffalo robe. I want you to feel the specific weight of it again. Modern blankets are designed to be light. We prize down feathers and synthetic fibers that provide warmth without weight. We want to feel like we are covered by nothing but a cloud. But the buffalo robe is different. It is heavy, intentionally so. When you pull it up to your chin, it presses down on you. It settles into the curves of your body, tucking itself in around your shoulders by sheer gravity. This weight triggers a primal response in the nervous system. Today we buy weighted blankets to simulate this feeling, to treat anxiety. We spend money to recreate what was simply the reality of winter sleep for thousands of years. That pressure creates a sense of containment. It tells your proprioceptive system, the part of your brain that knows where your body is in space, exactly where you end and the world begins. You don't float away in this sleep. You are anchored. You are held down, safe on the earth. And there is something spiritual here too, if you allow yourself to think about it. You are wrapped in the skin of the buffalo, the animal that provides food tools, shelter, and life to the people of the plains. To sleep inside its robe is to be embraced by the spirit of the animal. It is an act of gratitude and connection. You are protected by the creature that gave its life so you could survive the winter. In the dream time, the boundary between the sleeper and the buffalo blurs slightly. You borrow its warmth. You borrow its endurance. Now listen, really listen. Outside the hide walls, the snow has piled up. A blizzard might be blowing, or it might be the dead calm of deep freeze. But the snow acts as a miraculous acoustic dampener. You know how the world goes quiet after a heavy snowfall, how sound seems to stop traveling. Imagine that silence amplified. The snow banked against the bottom of the teepee seals the edges. The frost accumulating on the outer shell seals the pores of the hide. The teepee becomes a soundproof chamber. The howling wind, which might be deafening if you were standing outside, is reduced to a low, distant vibration, a hum that you feel more than you hear. The sharp crack of a tree branch in the cold forest sounds miles away. This acoustic isolation changes the quality of the silence. It is not an empty silence, it is a thick velvet silence. It wraps around the family like another layer of insulation. In this silence, the small sounds inside the teepee become the whole world. The pop of a sap pocket in the firewood, the rustle of a dog shifting position, the rhythmic breathing of your kin. These sounds don't compete with the noise of the outside world. They replace it. The vast, dangerous frozen landscape outside ceases to exist for these hours. The universe shrinks down to this circle of firelight, this smell of spruce and smoke, this weight of buffalo hide. This is what it means to burrow, to hibernate. You are not just sleeping on the plains. You have gone under the weather. You have created a subterranean feeling, a womb-like space that exists apart from the winter. And in this sensory cocoon, smelling the forest, feeling the weight of the robe, hearing the deep silence of the snow, your brain surrenders completely. It knows with absolute certainty that the storm cannot touch you here. The cold cannot find you. You are hidden. You are buried in warmth. And so the sleep that comes, is heavy, deep, and dreamless, at first born of this profound physical security. Let's talk now about something you might not have considered: the air itself, the medium you breathe, the space between bodies. Because inside that teepee, the air's different. Not just in temperature, though, that matters, but in quality, in texture, in the way it feels against your skin and in your lungs. Step outside the teepee for a moment. Feel the winter air on the Great Plains. It's dry, incredibly dry. The humidity is so low that weather instruments would struggle to register it, maybe 5%, maybe less. This dry air does things to your body. It pulls moisture from your skin. Your lips crack and bleed. Your nose dries out the delicate membranes, becoming brittle and painful. Your throat feels like sandpaper. Every breath seems to rasp, and the cold makes it worse. Cold air holds less moisture than warm air, so the colder it gets, the drier it gets. At 40 below, the air is a desiccant. It actively steals water from any source it touches, including you. But now, step back inside the teepee. Slide under the buffalo robe. Join the family in their sleeping cocoon. And notice the difference. The air here is softer. Warmer, yes, but also more humid. Each breath you take carries moisture, water vapor from the deepest parts of your lungs. And when you exhale, that moisture enters the space beneath the robe. It doesn't freeze. It doesn't condense. It stays as vapor suspended in the warming air. One person breathing adds a little moisture. But 6 people, 8 people when you count the children, all breathing steadily all night. The cumulative effect is significant. The humidity beneath that buffalo robe might reach 30, 40, even 50%. Not tropical, not uncomfortable, but enough to transform the experience of breathing. Your throat doesn't dry out. Your lips don't crack. The air feels almost soft as it enters your lungs. And this soft, humid air is easier to breathe. It doesn't trigger that slight gasp reflex that very cold, very dry air can cause. Your breathing becomes smooth, effortless, almost invisible. The dogs contribute too, especially the younger one who occasionally pants in his sleep as dreams of running across summer grass. Each pant releases a burst of warm, moist air. And even their ordinary breathing adds to the collective humidity. Their higher body temperature, their faster metabolism, means they're exhaling warmer, more moisture-laden breath than the humans. All this moisture does something else important. It changes how sound travels. In very dry air, sounds are sharp, distinct. The crack of a branch outside, the whistle of wind. Each noise is crisp, almost harsh. But in humid air, sounds are softer, slightly muffled. The sharp edges are taken off. So the breathing of the family, which could be intrusive or disturbing, instead becomes a gentle susurration, a background rhythm that's almost musical. Your mother's deep inhale is a low note. Your father's exhale is a bass rumble. The children's faster breathing adds a lighter, quicker percussion. And grandmother's breath is like a soft wind, constant and calm. Together, these sounds create what some would call white noise. A steady acoustic background that masks other, more disruptive sounds, the pop of the fire, the occasional snap of frost contracting wood, even the dogs moving in their sleep. All of these sounds are gentled, integrated into the overall soundscape of breath and warmth. Your brain learns to filter this soundscape, to recognize it as the sound of safety. Within a few nights, you don't consciously hear it anymore. It becomes like the sound of your own heartbeat, something your brain stops paying attention to. But it's still there, still providing that constant reassurance. You're not alone. The family breathes. All is well. Now, let's talk about stillness. This is subtle but crucial. When you're comfortable, really comfortable, your body naturally becomes still. You're not fidgeting, not adjusting, not searching every few minutes for a better position. You find a spot and you stay there. In modern beds, this can be hard to achieve. Mattresses are designed for comfort, yes, but they're also designed for individuals. They don't account for the way bodies nest together. So even with a partner, there's often a need to adjust, to move away from an uncomfortable edge, to find a pocket of mattress that supports you just right. But on the buffalo robes arranged over spruce boughs, with bodies pressed close on all sides, stillness comes naturally. The weight of the people around you helps. You literally can't move much without disturbing them. And the warmth, once it's established, discourages movement. Because every time you shift, you disrupt the warm pocket you've created. So you hold still, not with effort or discipline, just because holding still feels right, comfortable, safe. And this stillness is not just personal, it's collective. When everyone achieves stillness, when that first deep sleep has taken hold and the last adjustments have been made, something remarkable happens. The buffalo robe stops shifting. The air beneath it stops circulating. And in that stillness, the warmth accumulates. It's like pouring water into a container. At first, the water sloshes around, some spilling over the edge, but as it settles, as the movement stops, the container fills evenly. Same with warmth. When everyone is still, the warmth builds steadily, filling the space beneath the robe, raising the temperature degree by degree. It's not a huge increase. Maybe the temperature rises from 65 to 68 degrees over the course of an hour. But in the context of survival, where every degree matters, this is significant. This is comfort. This is the difference between sleeping fitfully, always slightly too cold, and sleeping deeply cradled in warmth. The Lakota understood this. Children were taught from their earliest memories to settle quickly, to find a position and hold it. Not through harsh discipline, but through the immediate feedback of their own bodies. Move too much and you feel the cold creeping in. Hold still and the warmth wraps around you like a living thing. And there's a feedback loop here. A virtuous cycle. The warmer you are, the stiller you become. The stiller you become, the warmer you get. It's self-reinforcing. Once it gets started, it maintains itself. But let's talk about what breaks the stillness. What causes people to move? The most common cause, as I've mentioned, is the fire dying down. The temperature in the teepee begins to drop. Not quickly, not alarmingly, but enough that your sleeping brain, constantly monitoring the environment, takes notice. The drop in temperature manifests in a specific way. It starts at your face, the only part of you exposed to the air outside the buffalo robe. You begin to feel cold on your nose, your cheeks. And in your sleep, your sleeping brain interprets this as a signal. Time to wake, time to tend the fire. Usually it's one of the elders who wakes. Their sleep is lighter anyway, more easily disturbed. And they're attuned to the fire in a way that comes from decades of responsibility. They can sense even in sleep when it needs attention. Grandmother opens her eyes. She doesn't jolt awake. There's no alarm, no urgency. She simply transitions from sleeping to waking as smoothly as water, flowing from one pool to another. For a moment, she lies still, assessing. How cold is her face? How dim is the glow from the coals? These factors tell her whether the fire needs attention now or can wait a bit longer. The coldness on her face decides it. Now is the time. She begins to move. And here is where you can see the skill developed over a lifetime. She needs to extract herself from the buffalo robe without disturbing the child pressed against her, without letting in too much cold air, without disrupting the collective warmth any more than absolutely necessary. She starts by creating a small gap, just enough for her head to emerge. She lifts the edge of the robe with one hand, while simultaneously sliding her body downward away from the child. The child, deep in sleep, makes a small sound of protest as the warmth shifts. But grandmother is already moving. Her other hand reaches back, pulling the robe down to cover the space she's vacating. The child, still mostly asleep, rolls slightly into the warm spot grandmother has left. The gap closes. The warmth is preserved. Grandmother is now half out. Her upper body is in the cooler air of the teepee. The shock of it is significant. After the cocoon of warmth, the 40-degree air feels bitter. But she doesn't hesitate. She completes her extraction, swinging her legs out, standing in one smooth motion, and immediately pulling the buffalo robe back into place, sealing the warm pocket she's left. The cold air hits her fully now. Even though she slept in her clothes, even though the teepee is much warmer than outside, the contrast is stark. She moves quickly to the fire. Her joints are stiff from lying still for hours. Her movements are careful, measured, but purposeful. The coals are still there. Good. Deep orange-red in the center, fading to gray at the edges. She can feel heat radiating from them, but it's weak. The teepee's temperature has dropped several degrees from its high point earlier in the night. She selects wood from the pile, not the largest logs. Those would create too much flame, too much smoke, disrupt the quiet of the night, but pieces of medium size. Dry wood that will catch, easily burn steadily. She knows each piece by feel in the darkness. This one from the cottonwood tree. This one pine which will burn faster but smell sweeter. She arranges the wood on the coals with practiced hands, creating small gaps for air to flow. Too close together and the wood will smother itself. Too far apart and it will burn inefficiently. She spaces the pieces just right, an art learned over 60 winters. Then she waits. Kneeling by the fire, hands extended toward the fading coals, the heat warms her palms. Slowly, after a minute, maybe two, the first small flames appear, yellow tongues licking at the wood. She leans closer, blows gently. Not a sharp puff that would scatter ash, but a steady stream of breath that feeds oxygen to the nascent flames. The flames grow, catch, spread to the second piece of wood, the third. Success. The fire is renewed, and almost immediately the temperature in the teepee begins to rise, not quickly but steadily. The flames push back against the cold. Grandmother doesn't rush back to the buffalo robe. She sits for a moment, warming herself, watching the flames establish themselves. This is her time. A few minutes of solitude in the depths of night. Around her, the family sleeps. Their breathing is the only sound besides the crackle of new fire. She thinks about nothing in particular. Or perhaps she thinks about everything, her own childhood, sleeping in a teepee much like this one, her grandmother now long dead who taught her how to tend a fire in the night, her children grown now, some sleeping here beside her, others in their own teepees nearby. The cycles of life, of seasons, of nights that end and begin again. The fire burns steady now. Time to return to sleep. She stands feeling the warmth from the fire on her front while her back remains cold. She moves to the buffalo robe, lifts the edge carefully, and slides back in. The residual warmth hits her immediately. After the cold air, even the modestly warm space beneath the robe feels like a furnace. She settles back into her spot. The child who had rolled into grandmother's warm space now rolls back unconsciously, seeking grandmother's body. They fit together like pieces of a puzzle, and within seconds, the warmth that grandmother temporarily lost is restored. The fire's increased heat begins to radiate through the teepee. The air temperature rises, and beneath the buffalo robe, the family's collective warmth, which had dipped slightly during grandmother's absence, stabilizes, rises. The system rebalances. Grandmother closes her eyes. Her breathing deepens, and within minutes, she's back asleep. The second sleep. The lighter, dreamier sleep that will carry her toward morning. Around her, the teepee breathes. The fire crackles. The buffalo robe rises and falls with the collective breath of the family. And outside, the stars continue their slow wheel across the winter sky. The moisture in the air, warmed by the renewed fire, rises. Some of it escapes through the smoke hole joining the frigid air outside, where it immediately freezes into crystals. But most stays inside, circulating slowly in the warmer layers near the top of the teepee. Eventually, as it cools slightly, it descends again, joining the air at sleeping level, maintaining that comfortable humidity. This circulation is gentle, not like the forced air systems of modern heating, more like breath, the teepee breathing along with its occupants, taking in cold air at the bottom edges where the hide doesn't quite meet the ground, warming it, adding moisture, sending it out through the smoke hole. A slow, constant exchange that keeps the air fresh enough to breathe comfortably, but warm enough to survive. The stillness returns. The brief disruption of grandmother's fire tending has passed. Everyone has resettled. The collective warmth is re-established, and the deep sleep of the middle night continues. This rhythm, wake to tend fire, then return to sleep, might repeat several times through the night. Different people waking at different times, sometimes grandmother, sometimes father, Occasionally, one of the older children old enough now to take responsibility. But each time the pattern is the same. Wake without alarm, tend the fire, return to sleep. The disruption is minimal, the stillness is quickly restored, and the warmth continues. In modern sleep science, these wakings would be concerning, signs of poor sleep quality, fragmented rest. But for the Lakota, they're not problems. They're simply the structure of night, the rhythm of winter sleep. No one worries about them. No one lies awake calculating lost sleep or worrying about being tired tomorrow, because the stillness between wakings is deep. The sleep is genuine and restorative, and the collective nature of it means that even when you're awake, you're not really alone with your wakefulness. The breathing of the family continues. The warmth continues. You're held by the collective even in your brief waking. This is the gift of the teepee's air. Warm enough to breathe comfortably, humid enough to prevent dryness, still enough to accumulate warmth, and filled with the sound of family, the proof in every breath that you're not alone in the darkness. Winter on the Great Plains is not a single night stretched long. It's hundreds of nights, strung together like beads on a cord, each one similar to the last, each one following the same pattern. The sun sets, the family gathers, the fire is prepared, bodies arrange themselves beneath the buffalo robe. The first sleep comes, someone wakes to tend the fire. The second sleep follows. Morning arrives eventually, and then it all happens again. Night after night after night after night. You might think this would become monotonous, the endless repetition of the same routine. But it doesn't. Because while the pattern is the same, each night is also unique. Each night has its own character, its own small variations within the larger theme. Some nights are colder than others. On those nights, the family clusters tighter. The fire is built slightly higher, more wood is kept inside the teepee for frequent tending. Everyone understands without discussion that this is a serious night, a night where vigilance matters more, where the margin between warmth and cold is thinner. Other nights are relatively mild. The temperature might only drop to 10 below, or even 0. On these nights, there's a subtle relaxation. The sleeping arrangement can be slightly looser. The fire can burn lower. There's more room to breathe. Some nights the wind howls. It batters the teepee walls, making the hide shudder and strain. The sound is constant, a roar that seems to promise violence. On these nights, sleep is lighter. Some part of everyone's mind is listening, monitoring, making sure the teepee holds. But it always holds. The design is ancient and proven. The wind passes over and around the conical shape, unable to get a purchase, unable to tear the structure down. Inside, the family sleeps on trusting in the strength of wooden poles and buffalo hide laced with sinew. Other nights are still. So still that the silence feels heavy like a physical presence. On these nights, the cold is often most intense. Without wind to stir the air, the temperature plummets. But the stillness also means less heat loss from the teepee. No drafts to steal warmth, just the quiet, profound cold that makes the stars seem close enough to touch. Some nights, someone is ill, a child with fever, an elder with a cough. On these nights, the sleep is disrupted more than usual. The sick person needs tending, water, comfort, the rearrangement of robes to keep them extra warm, and everyone else sleeps lighter, ready to wake if needed. But there's no resentment, no frustration at lost sleep. This is simply part of the collective responsibility. When you're sick, the family cares for you through the night. When they're sick, you do the same. The exchange is assumed. The bond is complete. Some nights the dogs are restless. They sense something outside. A pack of wolves passing nearby, perhaps, or another band moving through the territory. The dogs' whine pace refuse to settle, and this agitation transfers to the humans. Everyone sleeps lighter those nights, listening, ready. Usually the threat passes, the wolves move on, the other band continues their journey. Morning comes with no incident, but the vigilance was necessary. The light sleep was appropriate, and no one minds because everyone understands. Some nights are for deep rest, other nights are for watchfulness. Through all these variations, the fundamental pattern holds, together, warm, safe. The The repetition isn't monotonous because it's not thoughtless. Each night requires attention, assessment, small adjustments to the eternal dance of surviving winter. And gradually, over the course of the winter, this repetition does something profound. It creates a kind of bodily knowledge that goes deeper than conscious thought. Your body learns the rhythm of winter nights so thoroughly that it becomes automatic. You don't have to think about how to sleep in the teepee anymore. You just do it. Your body knows where to position itself, how to hold still, when to shift. Your sleeping brain knows the sound of normal breathing versus troubled breathing, knows the temperature that means the fire needs tending versus the temperature that can wait. This knowledge is transmitted from generation to generation. Not through instruction, though there is some of that, but primarily through experience. Children sleep beside their parents and grandparents. They feel the pattern in their bodies. They learn it through hundreds of nights of repetition before they're old enough to consciously understand what they're learning. By the time a child is 5 or 6 winters old, they're already expert winter sleepers. They know how to nestle close without being invasive, how to accept another person's warmth without taking more than their share, how to contribute their own small heat to the collective furnace. This is education of the deepest kind. Not facts memorized, not skills practiced, but wisdom absorbed through the body, through sleep, through the repetition of winter nights. And this wisdom creates a kind of competence that's hard for modern people to imagine. The Lakota sleeping in their winter teepee are not struggling to survive. They're not white-knuckling it through the cold. They're competent, skilled. They know exactly what they're doing. And this knowledge brings a kind of peace. Yes, winter is hard. Yes, the cold is dangerous. Yes, food is sometimes scarce. But the night at least is understood, mastered even. When darkness falls, the family knows exactly what to do. And they do it with the calm of people who have done it 1,000 times before. There's a particular night I want to tell you about. Not a real night in the sense of a specific historical event, but a composite night. A night that represents the deepest middle of winter, when the season feels eternal, when it seems spring will never come. This is the moon the Ojibwe called the hungry moon. Usually February. The coldest month, the darkest month. The month when food stores are running low and everyone is tired of winter's hardships. Even the children, usually resilient and cheerful, are quieter now, more subdued. On this particular night, the temperature has dropped to 50 below. With the wind chill, it might be 60 below, 70 below, numbers that defy understanding. At these temperatures, spit freezes before it hits the ground. Breath crystallizes instantly. The very air seems to have weight and malice. Inside the teepee, the family knows this is a test. This is the kind of night that kills the careless, the unprepared, the alone. But they're none of those things. So they prepare with extra care. The fire is built high, higher than usual. Using more wood, yes, but this is necessary. The buffalo robes are inspected, any gaps or thin spots, reinforced with extra hides. The sleeping arrangement is considered carefully. The most vulnerable, the very young and the very old, are placed in the absolute center. The strongest adults form an unbroken wall around them, and the family settles. But tonight, nobody goes quickly to sleep. The cold is too intense, too immediate. They lie together sharing warmth, but also sharing presence, talking quietly, telling stories, reminding each other of other hard nights they've survived, of springs that came eventually, of the buffalo returning, of warmth and plenty. This talking serves a purpose beyond distraction. It's reassurance, verbal proof that everyone is still okay, still here, still together. The voices are soft, not wanting to fully dispel the possibility of sleep, but loud enough to be heard, to matter. Grandmother tells a story about her grandmother, another night equally cold when she was just a girl, how they survived by doing exactly what they're doing now, staying together, keeping the fire burning, trusting the teepee, trusting each other, and how morning came as it always does, and they emerged to find the world transformed by frost, but themselves intact. The children listen, their eyes wide in the firelight. They're scared, though they try not to show it. The cold has a presence tonight, a weight, but grandmother's voice is steady, calm. And that calm is contagious. The children relax slightly. If grandmother says morning will come, then it will. Slowly, very slowly, the talking fades. People drop into silence one by one, and from silence into sleep. The fire burns high, pushing back the worst of the cold, and beneath the buffalo robes pressed closer than ever before, the family generates warmth. Not enough to be truly comfortable. This night is too cold for comfort, but enough to survive. Through the night, people take turns waking. The fire needs constant attention tonight, can't be allowed to die down even a little. So someone is always awake, tending, watching, making sure the cold doesn't win. And they make it. Through that night and into dawn, when the first light comes gray and cold, everyone is still there, still alive. The children open their eyes, the adults stir. And there's a moment, just a moment of profound relief. We made it. Together we survived the worst night of the winter. This is what the repetition creates. Not just skill, but trust. Trust in the pattern, trust in the family. Trust that even the worst nights can be survived if you're together. And this trust, renewed and proven night after night, becomes the foundation of everything else. The way the band makes decisions, the way resources are shared, the way conflicts are resolved, all of it rests on this fundamental knowledge learned in sleep and proven in survival. When you've kept each other warm through hundreds of winter nights, when you've tended each other's fires and shared each other's breath and nestled together in the darkness, you develop bonds that are almost unbreakable. You might disagree during the day about where to hunt, about how to prepare hides, about 100 small things. But when night comes, those disagreements dissolve because you need each other, and you know it. And you've proven it to yourselves over and over through the simple act of sleeping together, surviving together, waking together. This is what modern culture has lost. This deep bodily knowledge of interdependence. We've gained privacy, gained independence, gained the ability to sleep alone in climate-controlled rooms. And those are not small gains. They matter. But we've lost something too. We've lost the visceral understanding that we are not meant to face the darkness alone. That isolation, even comfortable isolation, is a kind of poverty. That the warmth of human connection is not just emotional, but physical, literal, a matter of survival. The Lakota knew this, lived this, proved it to themselves every single night through the long winter. And that knowledge shaped everything about who they were, how they understood the world, how they treated each other, how they survived, night after night, week after week, month after month, the same pattern, the same dance, the same collective act of survival. And through that repetition, something profound was created, not just warmth against the cold, but a way of being human, a way of understanding that we are at our core beings who need each other, who survive together, who sleep best when we sleep in the warmth of community. And now, as we approach the end of this long night's journey, I want to bring you back. Back from the Great Plains, back from the teepee, back from a world where sleep was something different than what you know. You're in your bed now, your familiar bed, your familiar room. The temperature is controlled, the blankets are soft. You're comfortable in ways the Lakota could never have imagined. Central heating, indoor plumbing, electric lights at your fingertips, these are extraordinary luxuries. And yet, something has shifted in you tonight, hasn't it? As you've listened to these stories, as you've imagined yourself in that teepee, something has awakened. Some old memory. Not a personal memory, obviously. You've never slept in a buffalo hide teepee on the frozen plains. But a deeper memory, a cellular memory, perhaps. The kind of knowledge that's written into your DNA after thousands of generations of humans sleeping together, surviving together, keeping each other warm. Your body remembers what your mind has forgotten. That sleep is not meant to be a solitary act, that the vulnerability of unconsciousness is best faced in company. That warmth, true warmth, comes not just from external sources, but from the presence of those you love. This is why you might find yourself unconsciously curling around a pillow at night. Your body is seeking the presence of another. Why you sleep better with a partner beside you, even if they snore or steal the blankets. The disturbances are outweighed by the comfort of presence. Why pets on the bed feel soothing. Their warmth, their breath, their physical reality reminds some ancient part of you that you're not alone. Modern sleep science is slowly rediscovering what traditional peoples never forgot. The co-sleeping, whether with partners or children or even pets, can improve sleep quality despite causing more frequent brief wakings. That these wakings, when they occur in the context of shared warmth and safety, are not disruptive. They're natural, part of the rhythm of human sleep. That the segmented sleep pattern, the two sleeps separated by a period of waking, was the human norm for thousands of years. That our modern insistence on 8 continuous hours is the anomaly, not the traditional pattern. That waking at 2 or 3 in the morning is not necessarily insomnia. It might just be your biology trying to express its natural rhythm. When you wake in the night, if you wake, perhaps you can think about the typee now, about grandmother rising to tend the fire, about the family adjusting positions without waking, about the collective warmth maintained through small acts of care. And maybe instead of anxiously checking the clock, instead of calculating how many hours of sleep you've lost and how tired you'll be tomorrow, you can simply breathe. Feel the comfort of your bed. Be grateful for the warmth around you, whether it comes from a furnace or a blanket or another person beside you. Maybe you can add a metaphorical log to your own fire. Adjust your pillow. Pull the blanket a bit higher. And trust that sleep will come again, not because you forced it or achieved it or earned it, but because it's night, and night is for sleeping. And your body knows this even if your worried mind sometimes forgets. The Lakota didn't have sleep hygiene advice. They didn't count sheep or use white noise machines or take melatonin. They simply slept because it was dark, and they were warm, and they were together. And maybe there's wisdom in that simplicity. In the trust that your body, when given safety and warmth and darkness, knows what to do. I want you to imagine now that you're drifting back to that teepee one last time. It's near dawn. The longest part of night is past. The fire has been tended one final time and burned steady. Outside, the stars are beginning to fade as the first hint of light touches the eastern horizon. Under the buffalo robe the family sleeps on, but it's a lighter sleep now. The deep restoration of the first sleep is complete. This is the dreaming time. The time when your sleeping mind wanders into strange territories, makes connections it wouldn't make while awake, processes the experiences of the day and the memories of a lifetime. You're dreaming of summer, of warm sun on your skin, of the buffalo herd, thousands strong, moving across the prairie like a dark river, of running, laughing, playing with the other children in the long evening light. The dream is vivid, rich with color and sound and feeling. More real in this moment than the cold, dark world outside the teepee. And around you, others are dreaming too, each in their own private landscape. But even in dreams, you're not entirely separate. The presence of family, the warmth of shared space seeps into your dreams, makes them safer somehow, less likely to twist into nightmare. Because even in the depths of sleep, rises toward waking, but she doesn't fight it, doesn't try to cling to sleep. She simply opens her eyes, sees the gray light beginning to show through the smoke hole, feels the warmth around her, hears the breathing of her family. Morning is coming. The night has been survived, another night in a long chain of nights stretching back to her childhood and forward to her grandchildren's old age. Nothing special about this night except that it's over, and they're all still here. Still warm, still together. She doesn't wake the others yet. Let them sleep a bit longer. Let them finish their dreams. There will be time enough for the work of day. For now, in these last moments before dawn, there is only warmth and breath and the profound peace of family sleeping safe. You're drifting now, back to your own bed, your own room, your own time. The teepee fades like a dream, fades present one moment and gone the next. But it's not entirely gone, is it? The memory of that warmth remains. The understanding of what sleep can be when it's shared, when it's not a problem to be solved but a state to be entered with trust. Your eyelids are heavy now. So heavy. The weight of this long story, this journey through time and across plains, has done its work. You're ready to sleep. Truly ready. Not anxious about it, not worried, just ready. And as you drift, as your breathing deepens and your muscles relax, maybe you can feel it. That same warmth. Not the literal warmth of buffalo robes and close-pressed bodies, but the warmth of connection. The knowledge that you're part of something larger. Part of the long chain of humanity that has always sought safety in the dark, warmth in the cold, rest in the arms of night. You are not alone. Even if you sleep in a room by yourself, even if there's no one else in your house, you are not alone. The memory of the teepee, the understanding of how humans are meant to sleep, that's with you now. And it will always be with you. The fire burns low, the stars wheel overhead, and somewhere in a place beyond time, a family sleeps in a circle. Their breath synchronized, their warmth shared, they're still there, they're always there. And in your sleep and your dreams, you might just find yourself among them, safe, warm, together, as humans have always been, as we are meant to be, as we will always be, deep down beneath all the layers of modern life and individual achievement and private rooms. We are meant to sleep together, to share the darkness, to keep each other warm. And even though we've forgotten, even though we've built a world of separate spaces and climate control and alarm clocks, we can still remember. In our bodies, in our dreams, in the deep, quiet moments before sleep comes. The winter night on the plains was never truly silent. There was always the wind finding voice in every gap and edge. Always the small sounds of wood settling fire crackling, the teepee breathing with its occupants. But now, as dawn approaches in our imagined night, even these sounds seem to soften, to fade, to prepare for the transition from darkness to light. Inside the teepee, one by one, people begin to stir, not waking fully yet, but rising slowly from the depths of sleep toward the surface of consciousness. There's no alarm here, no sudden jolt into wakefulness, just a gradual lightening, a natural surfacing. A child opens their eyes first, lies still for a moment oriented. The gray light through the smoke hole tells them it's morning or nearly morning. They feel the warmth around them. Grandmother still sleeping on one side, a parent on the other. They're safe. The night has passed. There's no rush to rise. Gradually others wake, yawning, stretching carefully under the buffalo robe, beginning the slow process of returning to the world of movement and activity. But even this waking is communal. As one person stirs, the movement ripples through the sleeping arrangement. Others wake in response, not with irritation, but with the calm acceptance of shared space. Father is the first to actually emerge from under the robe. He has work to do. Horses to check, wood to gather, the tasks of day are waiting. But he moves quietly, trying not to disturb those who are still sleeping. He adds wood to the fire, builds it up properly now because the teepee will need to be warm for the activities of day. Mother wakes next. Then the older children. One by one, the family transitions from sleeping to waking, from night to day, from the shared warmth of the buffalo robe to the individual tasks that await them. But even as they separate physically, even as they move to their day's work, they carry something with them. The memory of the night, the warmth they shared, the safety they maintained together. It's not spoken. It doesn't need to be. Everyone knows. Tonight they'll gather again, around the fire, under the buffalo robe, and the pattern will repeat. Because this is how humans survive winter, not alone, but together. For you listening now, perhaps already drifting into your own sleep, the same truth holds. You may sleep alone. You may have all the comforts of modern life, but you're still connected to this ancient pattern, to the thousands of generations who slept in circles, who shared warmth, who faced the darkness together. And when you wake in the night, if you wake, you're not failing at sleep. You're not broken or disordered. You're just human, expressing the natural rhythm that's been part of our species since long before we had words for it. So sleep now, sleep well, sleep with the knowledge that you're part of something larger, something older, Something that connects you to every human who's ever closed their eyes and trusted the night. The fire burns, the family breathes, and somewhere in the space between waking and sleeping, between past and present, you find your rest. Together as we've always been, safe in the warmth that only connection can bring, held by the darkness that's not empty but full, full of breath and life and the quiet certainty that morning will come. Sweet dreams, friend. In the quiet warmth of night, may you find the rest your body knows how to claim. And may you wake when you wake with the gentle gratitude of someone who survived another night, not through struggle, but through the simple act of being, of breathing, of trusting. The teepee stands, the night passes, and the warmth, that precious warmth of bodies, together of breath synchronized of trust, made tangible, that warmth endures. Through winter, through darkness, through time itself. Sleep now, you're safe, you're held, you're home.